It's about to go down with Marc and Cathey, a live coaching show about dropping ideas. Marc and Cathey coach and have conversations with brilliant idea creators who are reimagining the world through the expression of their words, thoughts, and action.
Hey everybody, I'm Cathey Armillas. Welcome to It's About to Go Down.
And I am Marc Williams, and we have the pleasure, the honor, and the thrill of being here today with Samantha Harris. Let me say that again. Samantha Harris! Samantha, oh man. From the first time I ever talked to you, my mind exploded. So I can't wait for this conversation because as a world champion of mama's boys, as a child who was raised by women, and I'm surrounded by amazing women like yourself, Samantha, like you, Cathey, I so respect that Samantha Harris, who is a certified life coach on her speaking journey, is grounded in this. That she is here to help women thrive in male-dominated industries. And for all my women out there, if you are done being consumed in this male-dominated world, Samantha Harris is here to help you to excel so that nothing can control you. She is going to help you, and dare I even say myself, be the human that we want to be. Samantha Harris, welcome to It's About to Go Down.
Well, thank you, Marc, Cathey, for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Like we said, it's just that connection. It went, and I'm ready to be here, talk about all the things, and to just tell the world and get it so they can get excited about showing up and seeing women thrive and doing what we do best in that different perspective that we bring to the workforce and into the world every day. So I'm here for it. Let's talk about it.
All right, you know what? Let's talk about that. Listen, we can break this down by gender, by sex, but I gotta imagine that it's more than gender that has inspired you, that it's more like there's 1,000,001 women around the world. Why are you so inspired to do this work? Why is it important for all of us to know about this work?
Let me tell you, Marc, honestly, it feels so life-changing for me to help change the world, to see this world, for this world to see every human as equal. I think there's something missing at this point right now. And we have conformed and became what one person or a few humans said that women should be, which has kept us from fully showing up, participating in this world and how we should and how we could expand. So that also inspires me for us all to be on equal playing ground so that we all can grow, not just one person, not just one gender, because I think we all deserve to be here. We all deserve to be able to speak up, say what we feel, go after what we want, and not do it out of fear or frustration, but out of the love for the journey that we're on.
And Marc, I don't know if you know this, but Samantha's not someone who just chose to talk about this. She comes from a very male-dominated industry. So Samantha, tell us a little bit more about that. I think it'll give some context to what we're talking about.
Okay. Well, I have worked in a male-dominated industry since 2000. I have worked in paving. Yes, I was out there pouring concrete, raking asphalt. I did gardening. I worked in plumbing, which is mechanical. I've done it all. I've been doing this. I went into this profession not because, oh, it was something that was on my checklist. Let me see, let me get this. I wanted weekends and holidays off, to be very honest. I did. I didn't have weekends and holidays off. And this right here allowed me. So they sent me to school. They taught me my job that I've been on for 32 years, taught me how to work in this environment. So as I worked in it and as I grew in it, it was a lot of different energies that I felt where even though I walked in confident, I went to this school, they paid me to learn, I still wasn't as confident as I was in the job as when I left learning.
Mm. Mm.
So it was a shift in me. It was a shift in how I showed up. And at that time, I didn't understand it. I didn't recognize it. What was happening, I was losing pieces of myself. Pieces of me were being torn away by the doubts that surrounded me and my abilities by the men that I worked with, or by the men that said I did not deserve to be there,
Mm.
and me overproving myself.
Mm.
So, me being in those environments has it tapped into my lack of confidence in myself. And me understanding now that to be rooted and grounded in your own confidence allows you to fully show up. So
Mm.
that's why I do what I do. I worked in an environmental unit. I have now 60 men that I supervise. Yeah. I run the emergency. Yeah, that's me. I know where 102 pieces of equipment during emergencies. I know where 102 pieces of equipment are and 102 men
Mm.
at all times. I am the chief's right hand. So I
Mm.
show up in that every single day.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah,
Loving that.
yeah.
Um, can I just ask you, because we're such fans of storytelling, I'm just curious, what's what's a moment when you had to overprove yourself?
Mm.
Because I found that to be a
Mm,
very fascinating choice of words.
When haven't I had to overprove
Mm.
myself?
Mm.
And I'm grateful before I even go into that, but where I am now that I no longer do that.
Mm.
You know, I'm going to say even me at the time being on snow removal teams, me staying outside when I had to go to the bathroom. Because men, they got an advantage on me,
Mm.
but I didn't want the teams to stop. So I said suffering
Mm.
or not drinking any water, not drinking any tea, working a midnight shift. So me overproving myself, meaning that I suffered,
Mm.
me not showing up, me not believing that, hey, even if I asked them to stop for me, that I'd still be worthy to be on this team. And this team that I was on, we made sure that the runways at JFK Airport was open. We made sure the taxiways were open. So me overproving, meaning I had to be there. I had to show up. Me giving of myself when I did the work for some of my counterparts and I sent it to them. And
Mm.
then they would take all the credit.
Oof.
And it was funny because I have a chief at the time, and he said to me, Samantha, next time you write a report, I need you to write it like this. And it was one of the men that I had did his report for.
You're like, I did. I wrote it just like that.
Yeah, just like that. So me overproving myself was always doing that
Oh,
extra,
oh.
always showing up, always sacrificing myself, never truly being me.
Mm.
Yeah,
Samantha, that makes my heart sink so much, right? I think that,
yeah.
as a fellow woman, also we were having this conversation the other day, but also starting my career in some not only male dominated industries. I didn't even tell you about this, but when my very first kind of like real job, I worked for two Korean brothers. And the one brother that lived in the United States, he kind of understood the culture of America. He had his kids living here. But the brother that lived in Korea, it was still very much like his wife had never had a job of her own, and and y'all want to hear, like, Samantha, you're going to die when I tell you this. So very first trade show I ever show up at, Mark, I know you know the story. I show up in Dusseldorf, Germany. It's this Korean company. The manufacturing plant was in Korea, and they shipped over all of these glass beveling machines. And they had a bunch of women wearing not the blue work suits, but they had them in pink, and they had white gloves on, and they had a big sign that said, "So easy, even a woman can do it." And I showed up and I was like, "What, what is this?" I was early 20s, and I looked at my boss and I was like, I don't know if this works in Korea, but I don't think it's going to fly in the United States. And so I feel a lot of this, I feel a lot of this understanding in this, like, ugh. And I wonder too, like, I'm so glad and I'm grateful that because you're a very strong female voice that's very clearly very confident and kind and compassionate and understanding. And I'm I'm assuming that a lot of women are benefiting from your strength and your experiences. What do you think? Where was that point where you decided you wanted to help other women transition through some of the stuff that you did?
I'm going to say after I really found my voice, and and when I found my voice was me doing this work on myself and me seeing other women come in. It's not a lot of women that work in the environment that I work
Mm,
in. And I had maybe 3 women come in. But at that point, I had not done the work on myself. I was still doing it, still processing because I had men doubting my abilities. And so much so that a friend of mine, because I was always complaining, no one has my back, no one has my back. And I realized a lot of women feel the same way. Nobody has my back. So he gave me a sign behind every successful woman is herself, which hangs in my office to this day.
mm.
And I had an incident that happened where one of the direct reports questioned, well, you're not really a real boss. He didn't say it behind my back. He said it to my face.
Mm,
And I'm thinking that the chief at the time would have my back. Again, have my back. Well, Samantha, you don't have to be so animated
mm,
when speaking to your direct report. Because I was like, listen, I'm the boss, like I'm a general or something. I was like, I'm the fool. I run things here
mm,
because we go by numbers. And I felt so small at that
mm,
moment.
mm,
Mm.
I never felt so small in my life because you're thinking someone is supposed to fight for you. Someone's supposed to make sure that you're okay. And that was that pivotal moment in my life where that sign, when I went back in my office and sank into my seat, changed my life because I had to make a change. I had to make a shift. And there was so many women coming in, those 2 or 3, which we're only at the company that I work for at 8% women in in this department still to this day. And I saw them coming in with, well, what am I supposed to do? The men won't let me do this. The men said that I can't do it. We all can't be in the same position, and I can't uplift them unless I get to working on myself.
Mm.
And as I worked on myself, now I'm guiding them. And let me tell you, they doing big things. Not one that has come in, and I've had 3. They all, one is a mechanic, which never been a woman, nor neither a black woman at that. So let me
mm,
say that she's doing big things. I have another one field environmental mechanic, and I have one that's a gardener. So I have them coming in, and they're not staying at that base level that they enter into the company. They're growing, they're thriving, they're going after their dreams, and they don't mind asking. Where I think that was part of it, I was afraid to ask because what is everyone going to think about me?
Mm.
But now it's what I think about myself, and that's what I help these young ladies do.
mm,
I got to tell you,
mm,
it's speaking to my soul in so many ways. Um, Clearly, I'm not a woman, right? I was raised by women, but even when you talk about being only 8%, I think about sometimes as a Black male being the only one in a space, right? And that's a real pressure, I'll call it, or a real situation. And then you talked about overproving, because sometimes when you're the only one in a space, like you feel like you can't slip up. There's not room for excuses, right? Everybody's looking at you. Everybody's waiting for you to make. Everybody's waiting. If I go back to women, everybody's just waiting for you to kind of sit in the corner and be quiet, right? Everybody's always expecting it, so you're always overproving, and yet, you know, I find that we live in a society that always like, you got to work hard, you got to work hard, you got to work hard. That's it. And yet there's this fine line between working hard and overproving yourself.
mm,
Um, And you said a couple of things afterwards, after I found my voice. I had never felt so small. I had to make a shift. I had to work on myself before I could uplift others. And you've uplifted many who are no longer at that base level. Now, one of the things that you said is that you taught and you learned that it's okay to ask for help. I'm curious, Samantha, you went through this shift. You've taken other women through this shift. What's the process? What are the steps of making this shift? Because I think that's what people want to know. That's the nugget. How do I change it?
Let me tell you something. This is where the magic starts. And all right. It's becoming confident in knowing that you know that you know that you know, as old folks say. Let me tell you something. And you standing flat-footed in it, okay? And you know, I get that from my mama. I told you that, Mark. I don't play. My mother used to say it all the time. You got to be staying flat-footed in it and know and have that confidence within yourself and stop looking for other people to tell you, show you, guide you, stand in front of you. That's when the shift comes. That's when you get to show up. That's when the belief in yourself, and that's when you don't mind saying, yo, I don't know. Could you help me out? Because not only are you showing that you belong to be there, you're showing them that you are the reason that this place is growing, because this is how we show up together and build together. I get excited.
Ooh,
I see.
Yes. I'm excited for this conversation. And Mark, Samantha, I love that you're helping women, but Mark, I love that you also kind of brought in that there's a lot of people sitting in spaces that are feeling the same way that females would be feeling in a very male dominated industry, that there's probably all these common signs of trying to overprove yourself. And Samantha, you're giving some really great I love that it all is on the back of being confident. And I know it's one thing to say, like, be confident, but it's a practice, right? It's like a mindful, intentional practice to do it over and over. And I'm sure those doubts continue to get in your face. And just how do you keep that how do you keep people motivated, right?
I teach them to believe in themselves by reaching back, which I brag bag. That brag bag that you go into and you look in there and you search for, yes, you search for those accolades, that knowledge, that certification, all the things that you know that got you there so that you can look back in it and you're not looking for anyone else. You're looking in your own bag. You're looking for yourself. You're not looking for anybody but you to satisfy what you need, because those doubts is human. We human. We show up human every day. And that means it's going to be doubts. It's going to be like, am I supposed to be here? And that's why I'm not a fan of imposter syndrome, because it's not that. It's doubt in self that keeps us from showing up. But when you're able to reach back, look back, grab back, not that you got to stay there, because I don't believe in staying somewhere either that you used to be, because you've come so far. And people have a tendency to want to take you back there, but you get the right to take the parts of that, put it in that bag and reach into it when you want it and look at it and grow from there.
Ooh, I love that. Gosh, that's a practice everybody should do all the time. Go back to your brag bag.
Yeah, we get to have it.
Mm-hmm.
Samantha, when was the first time you reached into your brag bag and what did you pull out?
Yeah.
Oh, that first time, let me tell you something. Minding my business, I'm working at the airport where I work at night. Every year we have to have the certification to work on the airfield every night. So at night, while I'm sitting there and I have this manager who brought in a friend that he knew, and I always want to see women win in male dominated industries, but you're bringing a woman that has no experience and then you just put her there. First of all, it makes us as women that look bad, that showed up, that had put in the effort to show up 100%. But hey, you want to come here, but for whatever reason, because I'm a tall woman, I'm 5'9", 200 pounds, and guess what? She's scared of me. She 5'2". So he want to protect her. He want to be there. And I don't have a little voice, and I'm not going to make myself small for anyone. I've learned that too. To make you comfortable with me, you need to figure out why you're not comfortable with me. Your responsibility. Mine is to show up. Well, we sitting there and I'm minding my business. I'm running my desk, making sure everybody's where they're supposed to be. And he says to his friend, um, anyone can do what Samantha can do. It's no big deal. So in my head, now I'm spinning. I'm drinking my pomegranate tea, minding my business. I ain't bothering nobody. But you feel that's what you wanted to say. Now I
Oh,
did this work
I
on
can't wait for this
myself.
next part, Samantha, by the way. I'm waiting. I can't wait. Go
So
on.
I'm sitting there. I'm like, did he say that to me? No, he didn't say that. Did he just say that? So at that point, I had to reach into my brag bag and turn to him and say, well, let me tell you, I do X, Y, Z. Oh, and don't forget E, F, and G, A, B, C. It was no order in it, but I ran it down because I'm letting him know. And his feelings were so hurt. You need to talk to
Aw.
people better.
Aw.
But let me tell you something. It's no misunderstanding what I do and how I do it at all. Not one day, not 1 hour, because I reached back in and I stood up for me.
Mm.
And his feelings is his responsibility, not
Mm-hmm.
mine.
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm like, oh, poor guy, feelings hurt. Sorry, Mark, I don't mean like
All right. It's all right.
you want to cut me down, but you weren't ready for the brag bag.
Not at all. And that's what happens. We don't know we have it until we
Mhm.
look into it, until we add to it. So that's why it's so important for all of us to
Mm.
have it. Not just women, but every human that's here to have a brag bag that you can reach
Mm.
into, that you don't have to worry about nobody validating for you.
I just love that as just like even a response sometimes when you find yourself in a sticky situation where somebody feels like they're undermining something that you have a lot of experience in, and just to be able to like say, hey, let me just remind you where I come from and what I've done and how much work and time and effort I've put in. I mean, you can think that if you want, but I don't accept it. I kind of love that thing too, is like people can say or think whatever they want, but that doesn't mean it's my reality. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I think we as women, we've been taught that anyway. We take on responsibility for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone's happiness, everyone's sadness is our fault or we're the reason it happens. But when we
Yeah.
start realizing they're responsible for themselves, and that's what we forget. Everyone is responsible for their thought that created that feeling that had them show up the way they did.
Mhm.
And we take responsibility for ourselves because they're throwing a temper tantrum because they couldn't get their way. Not my responsibility. Figure that out.
Mm. Mark, I want to ask you how you feel about this, and Samantha, you as well. But you got me really thinking too that this is something that culturally happens a lot to mothers. Is like the mother is typically the nurturing person, and they're many times, I don't want to say all the time, but many times is the softer hearted of their children, and you know, and yet they'll get the harshest treatment sometimes, and they're the ones that have poured out the most love. Like it happens a lot. And I'm just wondering if either one of you have seen that, because I feel like it's a cultural thing. Like, oh, your mom will take it, unless your mom's a badass that will slap you across your face, and. And there's definitely those, right?
Wow. I know for me, Katie May was not for the foolishness, not at all. She was not, you was not talking to her crazy. You was not coming sideways. At the end of the day, she was my mother and you better respect her. She is sacrificing. I
Mhm.
think she did a lot of sacrificing, but in understanding who she was and more, as you get older, you realize the things she did even more. But she was not going to allow you to step on her, walk on her. So I think culturally, in that respect, Black mamas don't play that. A lot of them, like I'm showing up for you, I'm giving you, but in the same respect, that's a little bit of guilt too. Like, don't play with me. You know what I did? I got these shoes on. I want that new pair of shoes. I done bought you them sneakers that you ain't even deserve because you ain't bring home all them A's like you were supposed to. You know what I'm saying? So it's Mark, you know what I'm saying, right?
Mm.
It's all those
Oh,
things.
I know so much what you talk about. Um, Cathey, when you asked that question, I thought of the baby sister. And who's the baby sister? That's my mother's youngest sister. The baby of the group.
Mm.
My aunt Naima, may she rest in peace, was a tough cookie, boy. She might have
Mm.
been the youngest in the bunch, but you did not mess with her sisters. You did not mess with her children. You don't mess with her grandchildren. I actually just had a conversation with my younger cousin the other day, and she had to stand up for herself, in a conversation. And when she was telling me about it, she was like, "I just had to be grandma for a moment."
It's
She
true.
was taught that toughness. And I always say that my Emma like was just a rock. She was a
Mm.
rock, and nobody's gonna get over on her. And what I appreciate is there was one story I heard where she just she thought she heard somebody say something, and sure enough, when the whole event was over, she walked right up to him and said, "Did I hear you? Because if you had you said what I thought you said," he clarified it very quickly.
Mm.
But with that said, to your point, Cathey, I think when you come across as strong and as confident, some people have all of these negative connotations. You're not acting like a woman, you're this, and you throw out all kinds of offensive words. And it's tough to be a strong woman. It's tough to be a woman. I've seen it from my own experience being raised by women. Um, but I respect everything that you're talking about because I have seen some of the strongest women raise me.
Mm.
All praise to them. Absolutely. You know, um, and Cathey, I'd love to hear your response on it too. And then Samantha, I want to ask you another question about the brown bag. Not the brown bag. That's a different type of bag. Sorry. That's a different conversation.
That's another day.
Cathey, who comes to mind for you?
Sorry, what comes to mind for me for what?
For like, women that you have seen kind of like try to step
Oh,
up and
yeah, it kind of reminds me, I'm, in my family, my mom's 100% Italian, and my nana, she was my great grandmother, and I got to grow up with her, and man, everybody was scared of her. And she's like 4'1". I mean, Italians, I don't know what goes on with them, but they like by the time they get like 70, they just shrink, 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 shrink. And man, she was like, but in hindsight, looking back, and she was one of these old school Italian women. She had a bunch of white furniture in the front living room, and it had plastic on it, and nobody could go in there, and all of these things that you remember. But the reason I asked you that question, Samantha, to me is because when I look at the whole family unit, I think sometimes I feel like the male figures get away with, like, if your dad was going to come home and beat your ass for something, like, you're like, oh, that's what I expected. But if your mom's going to beat your ass for something, it was like there's a different label for it, and I think you were alluding to that a little bit, Mark. And it's like the woman should be sacrificing and loving, and in many ways they do, even if they're being hard. And I think that's what I was saying, is that label that comes with it is tough.
I do. I think you're right. I think it is a label to it, but I think sometimes we put it on ourselves as women because
mm,
of who we think we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to
Mm.
show up, what we're supposed to give, not even because of what we feel within ourselves, but because of what society has told us,
Mhm.
historically, what has been passed down, what has been showed. And I think, like you said, you go back to when your grandmother was, alive, well, when your grandmother, and, and I think about my mother, my grandmother, she sacrificed, she came to New York and she sold clothes to send money home. So my grandfather stayed home. My grandfather on my father's side had no legs. So my grandmother, she made corn liquor and sold it to make money. So so I come from a place of strong women and they still sacrificed themselves. So the way they showed up, I think, was a little bit different. They showed up like, I don't have time for this. And they were tired. They was broke down and they still showed up, but they didn't allow you to talk to them anyway because they was doing too much, giving too much, have seen too much for them to allow that to happen. So I think it depends on your circumstances. I think it depends on your situation and just your environment in itself. Because I think women show up and sacrifice no matter what because of what society has told us, what the patriarchal system has told us a good woman does and how a good woman should look and what you should talk like. Because, I cuss a lot, but, in certain situations, like, I know how to bring it, blah, blah, blah. But, and that code switching that people say, especially Black women do. So I show up differently and it depends, how much pressure that is. So I think mothers had that back then, but I think they were different. As much as they say women have changed and become stronger, as I'm talking to both of you, I think it's kind of bullshit. I think they were stronger back then. I do. I really, really do. Because they no longer, they didn't have the magazine. They didn't have TV. They didn't have the internet telling them what they should do, how they should look, and who they should be. They did certain things to be part of a group, but they didn't conform as much because they had to. Like I told you, my grandmother sold liquor. My grandmother, she came up here, she left her children, 9 of them, in order to make sure because my grandfather worked in the tobacco fields. And at the end of the day, listen, at certain times of the year, they still had to have money. These babies had to be fed, and they lived on a farm. So it was a different type of woman. She was standing strong. She had to be strong. She had no choice. So because of the sacrifices that she made, she was strong in that. And then she's strong because she just had to be. So you gonna understand and respect the fact that I'm tired, I'm sleepy, and I'm still working. So listen, this is my expectations of you. So I think that's the difference in society today. We really look more for outside of ourselves when I think women, older women, looked within themselves. And I believe women have just changed and shifted back a little bit more and looking for the rest of the world to define them instead of defining themselves.
That's a powerful thought. I feel the word labels reminds me of, and I'm gonna go with this concept, if I dare call it that. I don't know how often you've used that phrase brag bag, but it really stands out to me. I think what I'm taking away from your point is, well, women have had to carry a lot of baggage, a lot of weight on the shoulders. And I'm just curious, what do you say or what do you teach to other women so that in the midst of all of the baggage that they've got, that they can still spot the brag bag? Because it could be hard to, I can only imagine it's hard to spot and reach into the brag bag when you got all of this other luggage holding you down.
Oh, it is. Again, being there, and I can still feel it right now, just being in that position where I felt bogged down, couldn't breathe, and felt almost broken, to be honest. But I had to learn to ground myself. And that's what I teach women to ground themselves, recognize where you are, and I feel what you're feeling. Because a lot of times we don't allow ourselves to feel anything. And if we don't allow ourselves to feel and recognize where it is in our bodies, and that's teaching us why we're showing up, we continue to start just getting caught up and sinking and not allowing ourselves blindly to reach into that bag and pull something out. Because we don't want to feel, we think we got to keep going, we got to keep moving, we got to keep showing up for the rest of the world. Again, we depending on them to define us. We're depending on them to tell us how great we are, for them to have our backs. But if, hey, let me figure out why I'm not feeling comfortable, why I'm sad, why I'm in fear, because fear is a mean man. He'll have you stop straight in your track. He'll have you running. He'll have you people pleasing. So if you figure that out and figure out why I'm doing it and asking that question and where it's showing up, that's going to give you a minute to digest it and say, wait a minute, slow myself down. And then you can reach in. Then you can grab. But learning to slow down and to breathe and to believe in you again.
Mm.
Wow. I just had the image. I don't know how intentional this was. Carrying all of this luggage and saying it's okay to put down every single bag. Because that's what I saw growing up, that sometimes you didn't put down the bags. You tried to reach into the brag bag while you're carrying everything else. And when you said ground yourself and allow yourself to feel what you feel, to me, that's like put all them damn bags down
But
and
that's what it
spot the bag you
is.
need to reach into.
It is. It really, really is. Being it. I was funny. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she was talking about First James. In First James, it talks about having two minds, but I say splintered intentions, meaning you think one thing, you show up another way. You know, you're saying having talking out two sides of your mouth, bottom line. But you can't live like that. You can't show up like that and fully embrace where you're going. And we've been taught that we can't have one thing without sacrificing everything. But that's not life. You can have all the things and you get to take a break so you can realign yourself with where you're going, who you are. And that's what women have to realize and not worry about what everyone else is saying and all that stuff they putting on us. We get to say, nah, that's not for me.
Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, Samantha, you're very well along on this journey, and I can only imagine when you're working with women, some of this stuff is like I'm sure that they're like, yes, and that it is hard to practice. And my mind keeps going back to that, you know. It's hard for when somebody doesn't have the confidence at that moment to put all the bags down, to take a rest, to take a break, and to reach into their brag bag. But I do think it's important not only for the people that you're working like for them, but what do you feel like for people, like for instance, this in your story with this guy that like cut you down with like she doesn't even know what she's doing, like kind of thing, and then you came back with a B C D E F G H I blah, right?
Mhm.
What's the impact that's being made also in society and for other people who are used to, you know, playing the system?
It's letting them know that I'm not for it. We
Mm,
can't do that. We have to toe a different line. We're not toting yours, we toting mine. Either we tote it together and we respect each other, but I'm going to stand up in this. So either we do it together or we're going to do it my way. I'm no longer becoming who you need me to be for you to be comfortable. So it's just teaching the world that you have a voice and that you have a place. And they don't get to tell you your place because that's what it is. Cathey, I think I told you about the woman that was on the show or the news show, and she was there and she was giving her comments, blah, 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 blah. And this man Mark,
mm.
was trying to put her in her place because he touched her arm. That was to quiet her. And she kept talking. He touched her again and she said, "Do not touch me again." So that's her taking her stance, standing up for herself. And when we as women can do that unapologetically, then we're putting a boundary in place and we're letting you know that this is not accepted. So by
Mhm.
no means is it any way, any shape, any form are you going to control me. You get to control yourself and your own destiny by having your voice.
Mm. Mark, I bet one of the things that runs through your mind is, you're raising a young woman in your household, right? and you want to make sure that she gets equipped with some of this. Although I think you call her your CEO, so she's probably, she probably naturally already has a little bit of that. But does that resonate with you as well, Mark, and like seeing the women in your life?
Samantha, what Cathey's talking about is ever since I had a daughter, there was a conscious effort to give her the nickname of my CEO. I could have said princess, could have said queen, I intentionally chose to call her a CEO. And no, she does not have aspirations of going into the corporate world and sitting in the big chair, but she is super confident. She and my wife run the house.
Yes, they do. It's a
Make
true
no
story.
bones about it.
Yes.
But she carries herself with so much confidence, and I got to tell you, yeah, she's not letting anybody get one over on her.
Mm.
And I think that's an amazing thing.
Mhm. Yeah, I fear for I fear for the man who's gonna come over in her space and say, "Listen, you see what she's doing? Anybody could do that." Yeah,
Mm.
she gonna cut that down just like Samantha Harris did.
That's right.
Mm.
I think
Mm.
that, yeah, I think that's so important because, like you, my granddaughter, we don't have to label them or put dresses on them or do that. They get to choose. And I think that's the thing, Cathey, when I think back about it, a lot of times because we were defined and you saying CEO, that gives her a different thought process. It lets her know that she can get to certain places. We were given dolls, we were given kitchen sets. I know in my era it was oven bake and all this other stuff.
Oh,
Of that's directing you of where you should go. For me,
yeah.
I allow my granddaughter. I want to know when she's upset or mad. My daughter's like, "Oh my God!" I'm like, "No, let me know what's going on. I need you to tell me because when anyone upsets you or you're unhappy, I need you to know why you're feeling what you're feeling." So now in this generation that we're bringing up a different type of young ladies, we are, they're going to know how to express themselves and to put words to all the actions and feelings and thoughts that they're having so you can understand them. You don't have to guess. People have to guess sometimes with women of a particular age or thinking
Mm.
because we weren't taught to define it or to even feel that we were allowed to say it. So you telling her that she's the boss, she run things, that's a boss move right there. Kudos to you.
That is a boss move,
It
Mark.
is. It is. That's a win.
Appreciate it. And like I said, I that comes to me from just watching and learning from a lot of women who carry the same spirit as the two of you. I
Mm.
mean, Samantha, in the short time that I've known you, you are a boss.
Mm. Yes, yes,
Cathey,
you
and
are,
all the
Samantha.
time I've known you, you are a boss. And you, when they say that song, I'm every woman, absolutely. Every woman and a bag of chips. Um,
No, and a brag bag.
and a brag bag.
There you go. There you go.
Can I just say, because it's not lost on me. There was a couple of things that I wrote down. Cathey and I always writing all of these notes. Ask. If you don't know, ask, can you help me
Mm.
out? Reach into that grab bag. Show up as who you are. Understand that others are responsible for their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Ground yourself. Allow yourself to feel what you feel. I mean, that's just a roadmap for a mindset that all women and, as you said, all humans need to have. I'm really appreciating all the magic that you have poured into us.
Mm.
Thank
Mark,
you for allowing me.
Mark, I love that you grabbed all of those things she said. I wrote down, I think you caught more than I did, but I wrote down similar stuff. And you know what it makes me think is that everything that you're saying, Samantha, is all about it being you centric, but in a way of just like, I get to control how I show up. I get to control what I'm doing. And I love that separation, because even that in and of itself doesn't allow you to like blend with expectations or blend with other people, like, oh, you should do it this way because other people do it that way. Or it allows you to be uniquely yourself and be proud of it, and to understand the values that you bring and the worth that you bring. Because even the brag bag, it like puts you in a container, it puts you in a place of it's just you, there's nobody else like you, and that you're aware of it, that you know of it, you're proud of it. Like I love that. I think we can get confused many times. We even like maybe can attach ourselves to a group, or we, instead of just being our own individual strong ass self. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you both got something out of it. But that's so important what you were saying, us being able to be our individual selves. I don't know if we know how until you take the time to do it. Because you're going to be,
Yeah.
from the day you're born, your parents have these wants, dreams, and things for you. You go to school and, oh, so
Yeah.
smart. You could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer. Everyone has this place or this position they want to put you in. And we
Right.
start taking on the identities of what people see for us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we forget about who we are,
Yeah.
or we even know who we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that the
Yeah.
craziest thing?
Yeah.
Before we know who we are, people have already told us what we're great at, what we could do, what we should be. And then you're looking at your family and you're going to become either your mother or your father, depending on bottom line. Then society has this way of telling us, especially us humans, who we should be, you know, and then they divide us between racism and sexism and all the things and classifications. And, it's all the things that the world puts on us. But when you start taking the time to peel all that crap away from yourself, and you're just like, that was one of the saddest days of my life when I started my work, doing my work on myself. And my coach said to me, um, we're going to peel away all of that, who you are.
Mm.
Could you imagine? And I wasn't 25, 35. I was a little bit older. And you're getting rid of everything who you're supposed to be, who
Mm.
you've defined yourself as a human being. And you're just down and you're empty and you have to rebuild yourself. That in itself was the saddest. When I tell you I was sad and I cried, that was the saddest day for me. So
Mm.
glad that I did the work, but that was a sad day for me.
Mm.
Yeah,
Sounds like it was a necessary work.
it's necessary. It's necessary for everyone, but people are afraid of it.
Mhm.
And then they don't know what to do or how to do it sometimes. But figuring that
Yeah.
out is key to being just happy, that joy, that joy down in my soul. Finding y'all better be glad I can't sing. Being able to get there. And you know how people be talking about, oh, that joy oozing out of somebody. For you to be able to get there, that means you got to get rid of all this shit the rest of the world told you and just get
Mm.
deep down inside and just be bare
Mm.
Mhm.
and then just get there. People don't, because when you ask somebody who they are, they don't even know. 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell you the role and responsibility that they have. They don't know who they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, that's true. And an identity, right?
Yeah.
One of their identities. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I kept thinking about the island, Samantha. I was like, if you were to like talk to a woman and you were like, if you were an island, what would you be? What are your qualities? What's your like, because you are an island. Like, don't attach yourself to any other thing. What would you be? That's like, I've got that in my head. And I think the island immediately would want to be like, well, I belong to this country, or I belong, right? Like it would already start like having these associations, and you're saying no, like come up with your own. Really, what are you? What are
Yeah.
your strengths? What are you about?
I
I
think
love
about
this.
I'm glad because our
Mm,
personalities and our professions, all of that is intertwined in those
yeah.
emotions. that's what we identify as. So, I think it's so important for us just to get to know us before we look for everything else around us.
Yeah. And Mark, I just have to give you props really quick because, I don't know how many men could sit in a conversation like this and not feel threatened. And I know genuinely from the bottom of your heart that you show up with all love in this space. And I know you were raised by a bunch of strong Black women, and so I know that you really understand it. But a lot of props to you because I don't know. I just don't know how
I
many.
appreciate that.
I don't know, right, Samantha?
Yeah,
I don't know how many men could handle that.
because a lot of men, look, I work with enough of them, and it's very few. Um, it takes a certain type of man, human, that can sit and even be open to even evaluate how he thinks, how he feels, and be able to express his thoughts in a way that's not on a defense, but
Yeah,
open.
super open. Mm.
That is a win in itself. Come on, Mark, for the world.
Come on,
Woo!
Mark. All right, and on that note, Mark, I'm gonna ask you first because I'm, it's just thinking about what big thing that you've already shared some of the things, but what's a really big thing that you're taking away from this awesome conversation that we've had with Samantha?
Reach into your brag bag.
Mm,
You remind yourself of all the things that qualify you, that you've accomplished, and you don't have to
mm.
necessarily show it to anybody. You just need to show yourself what's in
Ah,
your brag bag.
woo. I didn't even finish the question and that came out. I love that.
You
I
see
wasn't
me,
even
Cathey, I
done.
picked it up. It feels so good to snap those fingers. Yes.
Ooh, I love that. I feel like you stole part of what I would have said too, so I'm going to double down on that. But I also think you don't have to validate yourself to other people. Like for me, I heard that really strong and clear. You do you, and you can do that, but don't put that on me. And I'm going to be myself. So I'm taking that as such a strength, Samantha, and I appreciate the awesome reminder of that. And I'd love to ask you from this conversation, what's been something that, you've been dropping nuggets, so
Thank you. Um, for me taking away is being open to be able to help talk about it more, being
Mm,
able to allow people to really receive it. I think sometimes we as humans don't, let me speak for me. Samantha Harris, sometimes does not kind of holds back depending on my audience, but you never know who's in your audience,
yeah.
who's going to hear you, who's going to receive it, and who's
Mm,
open to even share it. So being here and being able to
mm.
do this just allows me to see further on.
And who needed to hear it, Samantha? I swear there's somebody that's going in the future that's going to hear this, and that it's the thing they needed to hear that day, that time, that person.
Yeah. Look, and that's what I'm here for. All of us as humans being able to get from each other and grow from each other. It's the different perspectives that we bring into this world that's going to allow us to elevate and to grow.
Mm,
Mm.
yes, indeed.
Speaking.
Samantha, people need to follow you and know what you're doing because your work is fire. Where can people find you? How can they follow you?
Well, thank you for asking. They can
Yeah.
find me at www.samanthakharris.com. K is spelled out Kaye. And on Instagram as Coach Samantha K and LinkedIn at samanthakharris.com.
Samantha K. I love it. Woo! Awesome. Well, Samantha, thank you for sharing all this today. And anybody watching, if you're like watching, going, wow, that was a great topic, great idea. I have an idea. If you want to share an idea with Mark and I and be on our show, just hit us up. It's about to go down show.com. Mark with a C, Cathey with an E, K, Samantha K with an E as well. We got something going on here. We're all unique. We're ourselves, right? So thanks for being on our show, Samantha. And I think it went down. And if you watch next time, it's going to go down. So thank you for being on. It's about to go down.